The ultimatum. The orbital sensors detected the anomaly first, a massive distortion in space-time that rippled through the Kuiper Belt. Within minutes, every defense system on Earth went into silent alert mode. General Elena Vasquez stood in the command center beneath Mount Cheyenne, her eyes fixed on the holographic display as it tracked the incoming objects. "How many?" she asked, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. 17 capital ships, ma'am," replied Colonel Way. "Largest is approximately 6 kilometers in length. Nothing like we've ever seen before." Elena's expression remained impassive, but her mind raced. This was what they had prepared for over the last 3 decades. First contact with a technologically superior species. The question was, would it be peaceful, or would humanity face its greatest challenge? She wouldn't have to wait long for an answer. The alien fleet decelerated with impossible precision, their massive hulls gleaming in the sunlight as they took position in Earth's orbit. The largest vessel, a behemoth of dark metal and glowing energy conduits, settled directly over the North Atlantic. Within seconds, every communication device on the planet activated simultaneously. A face appeared on screens worldwide, vaguely humanoid with iridescent scales covering a broad forehead and 4 piercing yellow eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. When it spoke, its voice resonated with a harmonic quality that seemed to bypass the ears and vibrate directly within the mind. "People of Earth, I am Grand Admiral Xarak of the Drentheri Imperium. Your world has been selected for integration into our collective. Resistance is unnecessary and would only result in needless suffering. Your resources and labor will serve a greater purpose in the expansion of our civilization across this galactic sector." The alien's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. "You have developed rudimentary space travel and primitive nuclear technology. While commendable for a species of your limited experience, you are several millennia behind our technological development. We offer you the opportunity to join our Imperium as a protectorate state. Your governments will remain as symbolic entities, while true authority will transfer to our appointed governor." Admiral Xarak's eyes narrowed slightly. "You have 24 of your Earth hours to surrender control. After that time, we will implement forced integration protocols. Choose wisely." The transmission ended, leaving billions in stunned silence. Within minutes, the United Earth Defense Council, a secret body formed after the discovery that changed everything, convened in the deepest level of the Cheyenne facility. 24 individuals representing every continent sat around a circular table, their faces grim in the blue light of the holographic projector. President Amara Okafor stood at the head of the table, her tall frame casting a long shadow. At 62, she had led the unified Earth government for just 3 years, but her previous role as director of the Phoenix Initiative had prepared her for this moment. "They've made the same mistake as all conquerors throughout history," she said, her voice calm but resolute. "They've underestimated their opponent." She nodded to General Vasquez, who activated the secure projection system. The hologram shifted to display a 3-dimensional map of the solar system, with hundreds of small points of light scattered throughout, hidden installations, stealth platforms, and concealed vessels that no conventional scan could detect. "Operation Icarus is ready," General Vasquez confirmed. "All platforms report green status. The Artemis fleet is in position behind Jupiter's magnetic shadow. The Helios array is charged and targeting solutions are locked." Dr. Sanjay Patel, Chief Science Director, cleared his throat. "The quantum shield is online and stable. Theoretical simulations give us a 97.8% probability of success against their weapons technology, based on our analysis of their hull composition and energy signatures." President Okafor looked around the table. "Let me remind everyone that this moment has been 30 years in the making. Since the Ganymede discovery in 2093, we've dedicated our best minds and resources to preparing for this day. We knew they would come eventually." The room fell silent as everyone remembered the turning point in human history, the discovery of an abandoned alien outpost beneath the surface of Ganymede. The technology found there had advanced human science by centuries overnight, but had also carried a warning. The galaxy was not a friendly place, and Earth needed to prepare. Most importantly, Earth needed to keep its advancement secret. "What about the civilian population?" asked Director Quaim, head of global security. "The panic is already spreading." "Let it," President Okafor replied. "The Imperium is monitoring our communications. They need to believe we're exactly what they think we are, a frightened, primitive species facing a superior force." She turned to the communications officer. "Prepare our response to the Imperium. Tell them Earth's governments are in disarray, requesting more time to consider their terms. Make it seem like we're divided and fearful." The officer nodded and left to craft the message. Meanwhile, Okafor continued, "Initiate darkness protocol. All military personnel should be at their assigned stations within 6 hours. Civilian emergency protocols are already active, but keep evacuation to underground shelters quiet and orderly." Dr. Patel studied the alien fleet's formation on the holographic display. Their deployment suggests they expect minimal resistance. They've positioned their vessels for planetary intimidation, not combat. "Good," General Vasquez said with a cold smile. "Let them think they've won before the battle even begins." 12 hours later, Grand Admiral Xarak received Earth's official response. The message came from a hastily assembled Earth Unification Council, claiming to represent the planet's major powers. "We request an extension of 48 hours to prepare our world for integration," the human spokesperson said, his voice trembling appropriately. "Our leaders are still debating the terms, and we need time to calm public unrest. We ask for your patience and understanding during this difficult transition." In his command chamber aboard the dreadnought Inevitable Dominion, Xarak clicked his mandibles in satisfaction. He had conquered 17 worlds before this one, and the pattern was always the same: initial defiance, followed by negotiation, then inevitable submission. These humans would be no different. Denied, he transmitted back to Earth, "You have 12 remaining hours. Use them wisely." What Xarak didn't see was the activity taking place throughout the solar system. Behind Mars, stealth platforms moved into attack positions. Within the asteroid belt, weapon systems powered up. On Europa and Titan, massive hangar doors opened to release swarms of autonomous combat drones. And beneath the surface of Earth itself, millions of soldiers and civilians moved into hardened bunkers equipped with technology that would have seemed like magic just 3 decades ago. As the deadline approached, Xarak ordered his fleet to move into a tighter formation around Earth. Weapon systems were charged, invasion forces prepared. The integration of Earth would proceed on schedule, like all the conquests before it. 6 hours before the deadline, President Okafor authorized the final phase of Earth's response. In a secure chamber, she faced a camera that would broadcast to the Imperium fleet. "Grand Admiral Xarak," she began, her voice now strong and unwavering. "I am President Amara Okafor of the United Earth Alliance. We have considered your offer of integration and have prepared our response." Her eyes hardened as she continued. "The people of Earth decline your generous offer. We prefer to maintain our independence." She paused, allowing her words to sink in. "Furthermore, we request that you remove your fleet from Earth orbit immediately. Failure to comply within 1 hour will result in consequences you are not prepared for." Aboard the Inevitable Dominion, Xarak stared at the human leader with astonishment that quickly turned to amusement. He had expected capitulation, not this audacious defiance. "President Okafor," he replied, his voice dripping with condescension, "your courage is admirable but misplaced. Perhaps a demonstration will help clarify your situation." He gestured to his weapons officer. "Target their moon base. Low yield only. We don't want to damage the satellite itself." On Earth, President Okafor watched as the Imperium's flagship charged its forward cannons. She opened a secure channel to General Vasquez. "They're taking the bait," she said quietly. "Prepare to activate Icarus." Xarak's demonstration beam lanced toward the visible human outpost on the lunar surface. The energy discharge was precisely calculated, enough to destroy the human facility while leaving the moon intact. But something unexpected happened. As the beam approached the lunar surface, it seemed to ripple, distort, and then simply vanish. Where the outpost should have been vaporized, it remained untouched. Zarek stared in disbelief. Weapons malfunction. Target again. Before his crew could comply, alarms blared throughout the flagship. Something was approaching. Hundreds of objects appearing suddenly from behind planetary bodies, from within the asteroid belt, even rising from Earth itself. For the first time in his long career of conquest, Grand Admiral Zarek felt a sensation he had never experienced before. Fear. President Okafor's face reappeared on his command screen, her expression now containing a hint of satisfaction. Admiral Zarek, it seems we have much to discuss, but first, allow us to properly introduce ourselves. The Reckoning. Grand Admiral Zarek's four eyes widened as his tactical display filled with signatures of approaching vessels. Vessels that had been completely invisible to Imperium sensors until this moment. Hundreds of them, emerging from concealed positions throughout the solar system. Impossible, he whispered. According to all intelligence, Earth possessed only crude chemical rockets and a handful of orbital platforms. These vessels were sleek, advanced, and moving with precision that rivaled Imperium technology. His second-in-command, Sub-Admiral Krell, frantically analyzed the incoming data. Admiral, these vessels, they're utilizing some form of propulsion we've never encountered. They're emitting unusual energy signatures that don't match any known civilization's technology. Zarek's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of agitation among his species. Deploy defensive formation Gamma 6. All vessels, shields at maximum. The Imperium fleet responded with practiced efficiency, the 17 warships arranging themselves in a defensive sphere. Energy shields hummed to life, creating a shimmering barrier around each massive vessel. Weapon systems charged, targeting the approaching Earth fleet. But Earth struck first. From the lunar surface, a series of platforms that had been disguised as natural formations suddenly activated. Beams of concentrated energy, not the crude lasers the Imperium expected, but something that seemed to distort the very fabric of space, lanced toward the alien fleet. Where these beams touched the Imperium shields, reality itself seemed to warp. The supposedly impenetrable energy barriers flickered and failed, leaving sections of the massive warships exposed. "What is this technology?" demanded Zarek, slamming his armored fist on the command console. "How could a primitive species—" His words were cut short as the inevitable Dominion shuddered violently. Something had attached itself to the hull. Dozens of small objects that had somehow passed through the shields as if they weren't there. On Earth, in the command center beneath Mount Cheyenne, President Okafor and General Vasquez watched the battle unfold through their quantum-linked displays. The general allowed herself a small smile as she reported, Phase 1 complete. Quantum disruptors have compromised their shields. Boarding drones have attached to 14 of their vessels, including the flagship. "And our casualties?" asked President Okafor. "None so far," replied Vasquez. "Their targeting systems can't lock onto our vessels. The phase-shifting technology is working perfectly." Dr. Patil nodded in satisfaction. "Of course it's working. The principles were right there in the Ganymede archives. The ability to partially shift matter into an adjacent dimension, making it effectively intangible to conventional weapons, while still able to interact with normal space when desired." Aboard the inevitable Dominion, chaos reigned. The boarding drones had penetrated the hull and deployed swarms of nanomachines that were systematically disabling the ship's systems. Communications with the fleet became sporadic, then failed entirely. Weapons went offline. Life support faltered. "How?" demanded Zarek, as his command center darkened, emergency lighting casting an eerie glow over his scaled features. "How could they have developed this level of technology without our knowledge?" The answer came directly to his mind, a voice that seemed to bypass his auditory organs entirely. "We've had help, Admiral Sarek." The air in the command center shimmered, and suddenly there stood a human figure, a woman in a simple gray uniform with insignia Sarek didn't recognize. She wasn't physically present. This was some form of projection. Dr. Lyra Chen, Earth Science Directorate. She introduced herself calmly. "I'm communicating with you through quantum entanglement. Your translators should be processing my thoughts directly." Exarach tried to maintain his dignity despite the deteriorating situation. "Whatever primitive advantage you've temporarily gained will not save you. The Imperium spans thousands of star systems. This fleet is merely the vanguard." Dr. Chen smiled. "We're well aware of the Imperium's size and capabilities, Admiral. We've been studying you for decades, ever since we discovered the Ganymede outpost." Exarach froze. "Impossible. The outpost was destroyed eons ago." "Damaged," corrected Chen. "Not destroyed. The archive was intact, an emergency beacon and historical record left by the Arcturians. It contained detailed information about the various galactic powers, including your Imperium. Most importantly, it contained technological information that allowed us to advance our civilization by several centuries in just a few decades." "The Arcturians are a myth," snarled Exarach. "A bedtime story told to juvenile Drentheri." "They were very real," replied Chen. "And they foresaw the expansion of empires like yours. They left technological catches for species they deemed worthy of protection. We were fortunate enough to find one. Around the inevitable Dominion, the rest of the Imperium fleet was in similar distress. Earth vessels, smaller but far more maneuverable than their Imperium counterparts, darted between the massive warships, deploying weapons that seemed to defy the laws of physics as the Imperium understood them. 3 Imperium cruisers were already completely disabled, their crews contained but unharmed. 2 more had attempted to flee, only to find their engines mysteriously offline." "You hid all of this," Exarach said, understanding dawning. "You maintained the appearance of a primitive civilization while developing these technologies in secret." "Of course we did," replied Chen. "History has taught us what happens to indigenous peoples when confronted with technologically superior invaders. We decided to skip that part of the relationship." On the view screen, Exarach could see Earth vessels surrounding his flagship, their unusual designs unlike anything in the Imperium's database. They didn't bristle with obvious weapons. Instead, they seemed almost organic in their construction, with smooth hulls that occasionally rippled like liquid. "What happens now?" he asked, already knowing the defeat was total. President Okafor's image replaced Dr. Chen's. "Now, Admiral Exarach, we negotiate. As equals, not as conqueror and conquered. Your crew will be treated with respect. Your vessels will be disabled but not destroyed. And you will carry a message back to your Imperium." Exarach's pride wanted to refuse, to fight to the last, but his tactical mind recognized the futility. Whatever technology these humans possessed, it clearly surpassed current Imperium capabilities. "What message?" he asked finally. "Earth is not available for integration," Okafor stated firmly. "Furthermore, we will be reaching out to the 17 worlds you've already conquered. If they wish to regain their independence, we will support them." Exarach hissed in disbelief. "You would challenge the entire Imperium. This is just one fleet. We have thousands. And now you have a choice," Okafor continued, ignoring his outburst. "The Imperium can recognize Earth and its allies as sovereign territory and establish peaceful relations, or..." She let the alternative hang in the air, unspoken but clear. 48 hours later, aboard a single Imperium vessel permitted to leave the solar system, Grand Admiral Exarach contemplated his report to the Imperial Council. His defeat was humiliating, but the information he carried was valuable. These humans possessed technology that could revolutionize the Imperium itself if they could be persuaded to share it. Perhaps conquest wasn't the only path to advancement. Perhaps this Earth represented something the Imperium had never encountered before, a force that could not be subjugated, but might be partnered with. As his ship accelerated toward the jump point that would begin his long journey home, Zarak gazed one last time at the blue-green planet receding in the distance. For the first time in his long career, he had found a species worthy of genuine respect. In the decades to come, the galaxy would learn a new name, not the Drentheri Imperium, but the Earth Alliance. And the story would be told of how a supposedly primitive world had stood against an interstellar empire and said, simply but firmly, no, the era of human expansion had begun.